Hello, I'm Neil Quigley. Welcome to the latest episode of my Blogcast. Hope you're good. I have had a busy few weeks. I joined Stoke Mandeville Hospital Radio when I was 18 years old. I got the taste for radio doing 2 weeks work experience at Mix 96 in Aylesbury when I was at college. From there, the next step was to try and get my own show, which is why I joined the hospital radio. You have to start off as a producer working on the request show. This involves going around the wards and getting requests from the patients, and then you get to read your requests out for the patients you got them from on the request show, and you're part of the team in a kind of zoo format. That was great fun. Then basically from there you work towards trying to get your own show, which is very much what I wanted to do. I achieved that relatively quickly and used to do a show on a Tuesday between 6 and 8. Then the guy whose request show I started on did the next 2 hours, and another mate of mine did the final hour show right at the end of the evening's broadcasting. We formed together not only a good on-air team, but a big part of the fundraising team for the hospital radio, as it was a registered charity, and if we wanted to do anything new, we had to earn our own money. So we used to go out and do so many fetes, open days. We had our own OB equipment at the hospital radio, which we'd take out in our own cars, set it up and just talk and have a good laugh, the four of us together. Fantastic fun. We also did discos as well to raise money at the weekends, and we did all right. We got very popular and we're normally out an average of 2 times a month, so we were bringing in a lot of money for the radio station. At that point we did get ourselves some special jackets made with the Stoke Mandeville Hospital Radio logo on, and also our own names. Why am I telling you all this? I suspect you might be asking. Well, one of the gentlemen I did hospital radio with, I still see when I go to Tottenham. We normally catch up before the game if we can. The 2 other gentlemen in that fundraising team have since returned to their native Yorkshire. Therefore, obviously, I don't get to see them as much as I did. A couple of weekends ago, I took Linda up to stay with one of them and his wife at their house just outside Castleford. We ummed about how to get there. We thought about driving, but we were going up on a Friday. Then we thought we'd do the train. We've recently got one of these 2 together rail cards, which if you're travelling together as a 2, you can get a bit of a discount. Long story short, we ended up treating ourselves to first class travel to and from Yorkshire. Have done it before, and it wasn't that much extra for what you got back in return, I did not think. So we had a very nice journey. We actually had a bit of time to get into the King's Cross First Class Lounge and have some drinks and a packet of crisps before it was time for our train to leave. On the service itself, they did offer some alcoholic beverages, which we did take advantage of, and a nice evening meal. I had their gluten-free tuna salad, which was very nice. My mate very kindly picked us up from the local station. We went back to their house, and night 1 was cheese and wine, which was great. We were just catching up, enjoying some very, very nice cheese. They put on a great selection and the wine was good, and it was just nice to catch up. It was the first time that Linda had met them, so we stayed up probably slightly later than we should have, and then we made our way to bed. The next day, the plan was to get up relatively early as we were meeting my other former Stoke Mandeville Hospital Radio colleague and his wife in Sheffield for lunch. So we got ourselves up and about, had a bit of breakfast. Basically, as you can imagine, gentlemen who all have worked or do work in radio, one thing they have in common is they do like to talk. So we had so many conversations about so many things, the past, the future, and everything in between. And that was even before we'd set off to Sheffield to meet the other guy. Now, our other former colleague did message me and ask me if I was going to bring my old jacket with me. I did dig it out of a cupboard and it still fits me. In fact, weirdly, it's actually a bit big on me. It does look a bit dusty and a bit warm. However, I decided not to take mine up with me as it was a very warm weekend and they're quite thick jackets. My friend, however, when we met up, had decided to bring his, so we had a photo, the three of us taking him in his jacket. As it happened, he managed to message me a few weeks prior a photo of us at an OB back in the day for Stoke Mandeville Hospital Radio, all wearing our jackets. So on social media, I put both pictures up next to each other, claiming that we hadn't changed a bit. And then when I got back home, I did add a picture of me in my jacket as well, just to prove to the world that I still had it and I could still fit in it. We had a nice meal at Carluccio's, who are always good for gluten-free celiacs like me. Had their risotto. It was very nice and all very civilized. Obviously, we spent the entire time just reminiscing and reminding ourselves of things we'd done, like the time we were doing a fete and we managed to blag ourselves some free helicopter rides in a helicopter they had there for that purpose that they were obviously charging for, but we did a deal. We'll promote you if you give us a ride. There was also the event where we were supposed to be covering the opening of the World Paraplegic Games at Stoke Mandeville. We had moved our radio station to a hut right on the peripheral of the running track where the ceremony was due to take place, and we were all based in there. Unfortunately, this day the weather was absolutely horrendous, and at the last minute they moved the opening ceremony indoors. Unfortunately for us, we were all hardwired into this hut and we could not move and couldn't get into the hall to broadcast from there. So we had to broadcast for about 2 hours trying to describe an opening ceremony that we couldn't actually see. That was great fun. We also talked about the time the radio station became only one of 2 hospital radios to get an AM licence, which was amazing, which meant people not only inside the hospital but in the surrounding area could listen to us as well. We had Simon Bates come in to help us with the opening, and we all got to do an hour show on the day of launch, which was really good fun. We had so many great memories from the discos that we did together, including the time that one of my colleagues managed to play Mr. Sandman randomly very early when we were just trying to play some background music, and somehow he managed to fill the entire dance floor at about 6:30 in the evening, which was a little earlier than we planned to have everyone dancing. And then what we'd often do is, and it started off quite small, we would do the dance routines for well-known dances like the Macarena, Mud and Tiger Feet, the Jacksons Blame It on the Boogie, and of course YMCA. As things progressed and we started to get more ambitious and have more fun with it, at one point we did bring a load of costumes, so we basically had costume changes between each of the dances that we were leading while we were doing the disco. I'm very thankful that we were doing those discos when mobile phones, as they are now, were not a thing. We had a really nice couple of hours all together, went and got a coffee after dinner to continue the conversation. Then the mate who we'd met specifically in Sheffield had to go, and me and my other friend, his wife and Linda, went back to his place for our evening meal, a few more drinks and to sit in the sunshine. That evening I did make him watch the England-Norway game, which was quite exciting. As I was watching that, before I had gone up for the weekend, he mentioned he had quite a collection of whiskey, which I don't really drink, and also some interesting rums. So he offered me this rum that he bought on the Isle of Wight from Osborne House, and it's supposed to be a modern day interpretation of the rum that sailors used to use in the 18th century when they were at sea. So as you can imagine, it was meant for them to sip to keep themselves warm on a very cold, wet, horrible day at sea. So he gave me a very small amount of it. It tasted great. It took me most of the game to drink it, and it did leave me with a very warm glow. But I'm glad I got to sample it, and it got me through the game and England's win in that one. The next morning we went to the Licorice Festival in Pontefract, which was something that my friends had wanted to go to for a while, but it never quite worked out. So we thought we'd go along and take a look. There were some stalls selling licorice, but it was a bit bigger than that. It was just a nice market, really, with lots of different foodstuffs, many of which did have a licorice theme. To be fair, you could buy licorice flavoured alcohol, licorice flavoured pies, licorice flavoured jam. So it did really, I guess, fulfil its requirement as a licorice festival, but there was lots more going on besides. We spent a couple of hours looking around there, went back, got some dinner, and then it was time to take our first class train home, which was another enjoyable journey. It was a great weekend, reminiscing about our glory days at Stoke Mandeville Hospital Radio. I guess I do have to mention the World Cup semi-final, England against Argentina. I did really think we had a chance going into that game. If I'm honest, I knew it would be difficult. I knew what Argentina would be like, in that they would be dirty. They'd try every trick in the book, and we just needed to try and keep our cool, which I think we did on the whole, against quite a lot of them really taking things to the limit and beyond. Then we managed to get the goal. At that point, I thought, here we go. We have got a really good chance here. And then between the players and the coaches, somewhere we just stopped playing once we'd scored the goal and retreated back to the edge of our box. There was still about 35 minutes left to play, so this seemed a brave tactic at best. Anyone who had been watching Argentina during the competition knew that Argentina's attack was very, very good. Their weakness, if anything, was defensively when put under pressure and when you caught them on the break, like we did for our goal. So I don't know why we retreated so far. Surely it would have been better to have put them under pressure and tried to get a second goal, because Argentina, I think, had scored in something like their last 30 games or something ridiculous. So you kind of knew they were to get a goal. In the end, I think the 2 goals they got were sadly almost inevitable. Last weekend was mostly about good food and drink. On the Friday, we went out for a nice meal in Ronav's, a local restaurant to where my girlfriend lives, who can basically adapt pretty much all of their meals and make them gluten-free for me. They also do this amazing San Sebastian gluten-free cheesecake, which comes covered in melted chocolate with cream and ice cream. It is so good. And recently they've started selling Rioja by the glass, which is my favourite red wine. So we had a good night in there. They also have a bit of music in the background as well, so that was fun. Then on the Saturday night, Linda had found somewhere new that had got very good reviews for its gluten-free food, so we thought we'd give that a try. As the weather was nice, I did take advantage of being in her garden and have a couple of cans of Jubel beer, which again is fully gluten-free. It's fruit-flavoured beer. I prefer their peach flavour. That was my drink of choice. And a couple of cans of that in the sunshine did taste good. The pub we went to just outside St Albans is called the Praywood Arms. Very nice pub. I like the decor. Also got a massive outdoor seated area. Absolutely huge. We had booked ourselves a table on the terrace. We arrived a little bit early and had a drink in the garden first before being shown to our table. Linda was not wrong. The menu very clearly labelled, and I always like it when I go somewhere, say I'm a celiac, and I can see the person serving me recognises what that is and what that means. The menu was very clearly labelled and there were lots of options that I can have. It's not often I have trouble deciding what to have for a meal, because normally, depending on where we've gone, I've got slightly limited options. But this time it did take me a while, and in the end I went for things that I do not get very often. For a starter, I had what they called their 5-spice sticky chicken, which was really nice. It seemed like a Chinese inspired dish, and I do not get much Chinese style food unless Linda very kindly cooks it for me at home, which she does from time to time. So that was great. And then the main course, I do not get to have fish and chips very often, as in battered fish with the chips and the mushy peas. That was really nice, absolutely perfectly cooked, just the right amount of food on the plate. Absolutely love that. Linda, as it happened, also ordered something that was gluten-free, their fish cakes. Now they look great as well, so I've already got an idea what I might order next time we go. As it was a special occasion, Saturday night, and the sun had been out, we did start the meal by sharing a bottle of Prosecco before going on to a glass of wine each. As we headed to the dessert course, yes, of course, I had to have dessert. They had more than one gluten-free option, and one of those options wasn't a chocolate brownie, which normally is the case. I was umming and ahhing between two choices, either the sticky toffee pudding or they had a peach and strawberry crumble. So I thought I would go for that because it sounded quite interesting, and that was really nice as well. Really enjoyed the food there, and it had a nice atmosphere to the place. Afterwards, because it was still such a nice evening, we went and sat back out in their huge beer garden and had another drink. They have, for some reason, a tractor stuck there and also a adventure playground for kids. Now I saw all these children go and have their picture taken on the tractor. I am nearly 50 years old, not far off it, and Linda could see me looking over and she knew I wanted my picture taken on the tractor. I am still just a big kid. Thankfully, she is happy to humour me, so I got what I think are some amusing pictures of me sat on a tractor, which is the closest I've been to doing any agriculture whatsoever. We happened to get home just in time for the 3rd and 4th World Cup playoff between England and France. I was undecided whether to watch it, but I kind of did want to watch it just to see how we got on. I'd seen the lineup, quite rightly, had rested a few players and given a few of the players in the squad chance to play, which I think was a good decision. The game itself was not what I was expecting, particularly the first half when England went 4-0 up. It was quite special and surprising. And then in the second half, when France started coming back, I was starting to get a little bit negative again and thinking, oh no, here we go. But we held on and won the game rather impressively. It was nice to see so many goals, and it does mean we have finished in our highest place in a World Cup since 1966. Sunday morning, Linda and I were up nice and early to go to the cinema. We decided to go and watch Toy Story 5. It was led by her more than me. I'm aware of the Toy Story range of films. I think I've probably seen Toy Story 1 and possibly 2. Definitely had not seen 3 or 4, but I was aware of them and had seen certainly clips of them in the past, and I'd heard quite a bit about this film, and the deal she gets through her Sky subscription means that we could get these massive great deluxe seats in the cinema that are recliners. Basically, it costs £6, so it's a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest. So I thought we'd go and do that. I didn't manage to get any breakfast, so my breakfast was the popcorn I ate during the trailers. I'm so bad. If I bring popcorn into a cinema, it's rare that I'm still eating it when the actual film I'm going to watch starts. The film itself I thought was very good, even though some of the characters I didn't recognise, having not seen all of the previous 4 films. It does have a nice feel, a nice way to it, and of course it is one of those films that, yes, is aimed at children, but has plenty of jokes and things in there for the adults as well. The cast is fantastic. As we know, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen are great in those roles. I was slightly pleased to see Jordan North, the Capital Radio breakfast show presenter, pop up with a cameo in the middle of the film. That was good. I like what they've done with it this time. I think the storyline kind of does resonate, and I don't know if it resonates with the kids as much, but if you're of a similar age to me, and maybe, unlike me, you've got your own kids, but you remember your childhood, I think the way they've done it will resonate and will bring back a bit of nostalgia, and it's quite clever the way they knit it all together. Obviously, there are some good jokes and some visual things in there that will make you laugh. It's a Pixar film, so there are some happy and some less happy bits. But overall, really enjoyed it and glad I went to see it. It was a nice way to spend a Sunday morning. Well done to Spain for winning the Men's Football World Cup. For the 3rd World Cup in a row, the winning team featured a member of the Tottenham Hotspur squad. Hugo Lloris won it with France, then Christian Romero with Argentina, and Pedro Porro was the right back for Spain's victory. If only the Spurs players could be that much of a lucky charm for Tottenham itself rather than their international teams, we might get our hands on more silverware. That is it for this time. Thanks for listening. Look after yourselves and each other, please. I will speak to you again soon, but for now, bye-bye.